2, 1. We're here with Supreme Dow. This is Getting the Record Straight, the Truth to Power segment. Supreme was schooling us, learning us on black political empowerment as it relates to the Northwest section of the city. So continue, Supreme.
So my mother was the Dave Richardson's first campaign manager, and so my life, and prior to that, she knew his uncles, Calvin Robinson, Ed Robinson.
Oh wow, yeah.
Tom Richardson. They all actually the Robinsons. They lived in West Philadelphia with my mom and pop. And they came to Germantown from West Philly. So and Hardy Williams when he ran for mayor in 1970, 1971. So that all came out of those. That political activity came out of community empowerment initiatives about a protest, of struggle for rights and justice for black folks in Philadelphia, particularly. So we saw a very good opportunity in opening in the 201st Legislative District. So we decided to run Dave, who was at the time the youngest when he won. He ran against Joe Rocks, who was an incumbent, and beat the incumbent because of the massive turnout, because of the organization of the Northwest, which turned into a Northwest machine. What I mean by machine is it just worked, and it worked in years. We pumped out some really good elected officials, black elected officials, and started to really have an impact on resources and how we got representation in the state house. So with that legacy, and with that history rather, I decided to run after some big convincing from some community folk about this opportunity in the 198th Legislative District. Our platform is one of we got to save public schools. We see it as a big conservative effort moving across this country trying to privatize the school district. Public education, and we can't have that. We can't allow that to happen. The state, it's a state constitutional right that all children be granted a quality education, and we have to make sure that public schools remain public and are not sold to the highest bidder. Number one, we also have to think about some of the issues in our public schools. We're talking about nowadays. We have public schools that don't even have functioning libraries. That's totally unacceptable. We have public schools, most of our public schools that function with open air asbestos and hazardous materials because the buildings are so old and they were made during a period of time when they were using asbestos in the construction of these facilities. So these are some of the things that we have to mitigate. We have to come in, and this is unacceptable. We can't send our children to those schools. They're not preparing our children for college. They're not preparing our children for the global market. So we have to make sure that we take a hold of our school system.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons why I built the Black Writers Museum. When they had all those meetings in my home back in the day with all these powerful icons that turned out to be representatives or heads of movements, when they had those, they talked about building black institutions. So that's how I came up. So when I looked at the opportunity to do something, the first thing I said was I'm going to start a black institution. And we started the Black Writers Museum. And now we look at this 198th district, which represents Germantown, Central Germantown, Southwest Germantown, Nicetown, and Tioga. We looked at that district as being totally underserved for the last 30 years with a lack of leadership. So we're going to bring some leadership back because the 198th district deserves leadership. We deserve to have our public schools with libraries. We deserve our children to have music, art, and extracurricular activities.
Absolutely.
We deserve this. This is not something we think is a handout. That is something that is a mandate that comes from us. So we talk about public education and the saving and equitable funding for all public schools, particularly in Philadelphia. We talk about I call it community-based crime and murder that's happening in our cities and happening across Philadelphia because our young folks don't see the opportunity. They don't have a vision. They don't see themselves in the future. And that's because of how we treat our young folks and how our young folks are treated nationally and internationally. Young black children who are killing one another. We have to bring a stop to this. We have to provide some hope and some vision for these young brothers and sisters through opportunity, through education. And one of the reasons why they feel this way is because poverty reigns in our area. Because we have a minimum wage that's not even $10 and $7 an hour. So they might grow up in households where parents hold jobs and they're still in poverty. So we're going to go into the state house and we're going to look at see if we can form some relationships so we can pass some legislation that gives at least a $15 an hour, and I think $20 an hour should be at least a $15 an hour indexed to the inflation. So our children won't have to grow up in poverty because that's totally unacceptable in quote unquote one of the greatest nations in the world. So we have to look at some of these issues of community-based violence, of saving public education, and also to make sure that we have thriving business corridors in our district. You know, we have so many entrepreneurs, we have so many geniuses and brilliant young folks in our communities. We could use that brilliance, tap into some of that brilliance, and tap into some of these genius, and help to build our business corridors with the help of government, low interest loans and grants and government opportunity, so we can once again transform our communities and live in neighborhoods that we love to live in.
Hey, Supreme, hopefully after this, you know, we can talk some. You know, I really would like to help out, especially in terms of, you know, developing policy and strategy around some of these issues because, you know, I've worked in education. I used to run all the youth programs for the Philadelphia Housing Authority, the work I did at Germantown Settlement and other places as a consultant, actually. And so I'd like to you know, let you pick my brain and kind of talk some about that. But I just wanted to share a couple of things with you and kind of get your response. One, in terms of public schools, you know, that issue of equity or equity, you know, has been determined. You know, it has been determined as unconstitutional. And one of the questions I have, and perhaps something, if you don't want to comment on it now, I'm just, it certainly might be grist for something to research, is that what was the result? It was determined in court, you know, that was unconstitutional, the inequality of the schools. But I've often wondered, I have talked to a few people about this, and you know, it does merit further research and discussion. But my question, it really is, what was the outcome? You know, there was a determination made. So then what was the outcome of that? And I know, for example, in New Jersey, the same question was litigated on, you know, equal funding for schools. And the New Jersey Supreme Court said that it was unconstitutional. And I know one of the things they had to do was rebuild many of the schools in the inner cities in Jersey. And there were some other programs and issues that were attended to that. And so that's something, like I said, it's been litigated. But what happened after that, I think it's so important. I think it's worth looking at. The other thing I want to mention to you, and again, you know, when I'm finished, feel free to give me some feedback, or the audience. I work at, you know, I'm kind of semi-retired, and I work part-time in a public school. And I work in a public school actually at Houston Elementary. And one of the concerns I have that seems to be across the board with the Philadelphia School District is the idea of instruction. And like you said earlier, you know, programming and instruction in the arts, in music, in athletics is almost non-existent. You know, especially on the elementary level, you know, kids are expected they actually practice standing in line and walking in line. And it is expected that 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds be quiet for hours at a time, you know, and just read. And there's a whole emphasis, man, on, you know, test taking, preparing for tests at these really young ages, man. And I think it is horrible. And it really breeds and spawns contention between teachers, between students, and between parents. Kids who are, want to run around, they want to move. And I'm not saying that my thing is there's a time for everything. And for 7 and 8 year olds, I have a granddaughter who's 2. She doesn't sit still, and she's like a sponge, man. And I'm just really worried at what's going on from that very basic level. It seems like that's the way teachers are being taught. Is to this really segmented, rigorous, linear kind of instructional piece, man. And I think that I don't know how we got to that. How did we get to that? I'm thinking about Germantown and all the brilliant artists and musicians and stuff that have come, athletes that have come from that area, and now we've got Germantown High closed, and it's I really wonder how did we get here where we're teaching.
The instruction methodology of the school district now is just fatally flawed, and it crushes creativity.
Yes.
So fatally flawed because of what you're saying, because they've taken the arts out of the curriculum as a way of saving money and focusing on testing. And testing, we all know that testing is culturally biased. It is weighted against our children, meaning children of African children, black children, and children with different experiences, children in poverty, and it crushes their creativity. So you child with so much brilliance and so much energy and so much thoughtful intelligence, and you tell them you're just going to crush them and tell them to sit down and take double reading and double math and no opportunity to have gym or any other supportive activities. And some of those activities are what kept people in school when I was coming up.
It kept people in school. They're learning. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, all I hear out of teachers is, this is a teaching moment. This is a teaching opportunity. It's always about title, categories and nomenclature and what. So that's not important anymore. Teaching opportunity. You can't teach something while you're teaching a kid. You're doing gym. You don't learn how to count. Of course you do. And I went to public school to the 6th grade, then I went to a private school. And by the way, this private school was one of the most exclusive and expensive in the country. And you had to go out for a sport. You had to. You were made to. If you were too geeky and didn't want to do a sport, you just had to run around the track a few times. Well, Germantown Germantown Friends is right there. They've got how many field? Their big decision is what field do we have to play on today? It's an outrage on that level, and with a little determination and not even a whole hell of a lot of money, but we can begin to change the attitude and direction of what we're doing with these kids. But look, I want to give you a last, because we don't have much time, about another minute and a half left. So I want to turn it over to you for some closing remarks.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you bringing me on to Getting the Record Straight, your show. I appreciate the work that you're doing. What I say is, man, we just have to look at opportunities that are presented to us and be able to step up and take advantage of these opportunities. Me running for state representative, we look at that as an opportunity, not just for me, but an opportunity for our community to exert some leadership and to garner some resources. Historically, we always got into politics so we could garner access to power, to resource, to goods, to services and contracts, because our community's historically been denied those things.
Yeah.
So we have to, if we want to fight.
Sue, I gotta cut it right here. But thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. Love the conversation. We're with you.
Thank you.
All right, now.
What you soon, Bob.
All right, now. Supreme Dow. Peace.